What on earth is an electric superhighway? Today, you're going to find out. Here are 15 of the most abstract and unusual art installations. Number 15. Sirens of the Lambs. Banksy is undoubtedly one of the most influential street artists in the world, and every piece he creates is a social commentary on something that's important to him. He's focused on a wide range of themes since bursting onto the scene in the 1990s. But in 2019, during a residency in New York, he turned his attention on animal cruelty. The Sirens of the Lambs was a moving installation made up of a dirtied truck that was full of stuffed animals peeking out of the windows, and speakers inside that played amplified toy animal noises. It's a comical but serious way of drawing focus to the inhumane treatment animals suffer, particularly while on their way to a slaughterhouse. So it seems fitting that the Sirens of the Lambs was driven around the meatpacking district. The sounds being emitted were so loud that it was impossible for anyone to ignore it as it drove past, and it's the perfect example of why Banksy is one of the most revered artists of our time. Number 14. Tape Vienna. Installed in the Odeon, Vienna in 2010, the Tape Vienna exhibit saw over 10 people wrapping 530 rolls of adhesive tape throughout the open hall over 2 days to create a bizarre cobweb-like structure that visitors could actually crawl inside of. While it was a plan shaped to the piece, those who built it were able to follow the rhythms and patterns while they were making it. And while it seemed on the surface to be chaotic wrapping, it was as if it found itself during the process. Straight lines were stretched across the area to form the main foundations, and then the diagonal layers were added to create a complex organic structure, which the artists say replicates the process of similar formations in nature. Is this art or interactive architecture? Seemingly everyone who visited had their own ideas of what Tape Vienna truly meant, which was the intent of the work all along. Number 13. The Floating Piers. Created by Christo and Jean-Claude, the Floating Piers was a temporary art installation that was built on Lake Iseo, Italy in 2016. By using 226,000 high-density polyethylene cubes, they created more than 750,000 square feet of yellow fabric floating on the water, which allowed visitors to walk out and in between the land formations they led to. The artists first had the idea for this piece in 1970, and it took almost 50 years to find the ideal material, location, and funds to make it a reality. It's thought to have cost $17 million to construct, which included the installation of 220 6-ton anchors to hold it firmly in place. Their efforts were so well worth it, because within the first 5 days after opening, more than 270,000 people took the opportunity to walk over it. It became so popular, in fact, that the authorities had to close it for 6 hours per day to clean the area. Local transport infrastructure began to struggle to cope. The pier stayed in place for just 2 weeks, during which time 1.2 million visitors walked across the water. But in the end, it was fully dismantled and stored, so if the chance arises, it can be rebuilt once more. Number 12. Support. If you were walking through the narrow streets of Venice in 2017, the chances are you might have seen this unusual art installation, which is called Support and was created by Lorenzo Quinn. The idea of the piece is to highlight the concerns of global warming, and that while humans are causing the problems, they can also fix them too. Venice is a city at the forefront of the debate around the impact of rising sea levels, so it was the perfect place for the construction of the giant lost wax cast hands that reach out from the canal and appear to be holding the Casagredo Hotel back from falling in. It was done in collaboration with UNESCO for the 57th annual art exhibition in the Venice Biennale, and as part of the arrangement, he also made 20 smaller versions for the organization to help raise funds for their endeavors. Number 11. Electronic Superhighway, Continental US, Alaska, Hawaii. Electronic Superhighway is an installation in the Smithsonian American Art Museum that was created by Namjoon Pak. When the artist arrived in the US in 1964, the interstate highway network was just 9 years old and represented the freedom for everyone to explore the entire country from their car. Namjoon Pak is known for developing the genre of video art and is credited with creating the term electronic superhighway in the 1970s. This particular installation is a representation of how travel, media, and Americana have combined, and it's a sight to behold. Made up of 336 televisions, 50 DVD players, 3,750 feet of cabling, and 575 feet of neon tubing, it was first revealed in 1995 and virtually everyone who has seen it has taken their own interpretation of what it actually means, and whether they consider it to be art or not, or just a hodgepodge of color and monitors. Number 10. All the Eternal Love I Have for the Pumpkins. Yayoi Kusama is known for her artworks that involve pumpkins in various forms, and All the Eternal Love I Have for the Pumpkins in 2017 was a return to a piece she built in 1991, which was an infinity mirror room. Filled with a range of acrylic yellow-spotted pumpkins and installed at the Dallas Museum of Art, it was designed to be viewed by 1 or 2 people at a time who would enter the room for up to 45 seconds. The result is a space that makes each visitor take time to reflect and contemplate, and raises ideas of infinity, the sublime, and obsessive repetition. It's so fully immersive that anyone who entered would immediately feel like part of the installation themselves, and would get lost in the color contrasts and never-ending sensation. The installation was just temporary, so it was no longer there, but it proved to be such a success that Kusama has hinted that it's something she'll return to in an even greater way at some point in the future. Number 9. The Bruges Whale. Climate change and the pollution that we release into the oceans is an ever-present concern for the future of our planet, and is a common theme when it comes to art. Some do it to a much larger scale to others, though, and the 2018 edition of the Triennial Bruges Art Exhibition was the perfect setting for Studio KCA to reveal their new piece. Called the Bruges Whale, or Skyscraper, it was a whale leaping out of one of the city's canals that was made from more than 5 tons of plastic waste that had been retrieved from the ocean around Hawaii. At more than 4 stories tall, it contained virtually every plastic product you can think of, from hangers to toilet seats and children's bowls, and is a stark reminder of how serious the pollution problem has become, with more than 150 million tons of plastic waste still swirling around in the oceans. Following the end of the exhibit in Bruges, the whale has been displayed in various other cities around the world too, and its creators hope it'll keep the conversation alive to help lead to solutions for the problem. We are constantly adding more people to the Top 5's production team to bring you all the best content. Be sure to subscribe with notifications on and hit the like button. Number 8. Biografias. Artist Alicia Martin has been working with unusual creative medium for many years: books. She sees something transcendental about using other works of fiction to create something visually striking, so embarked on a series of sculptures that she calls biografias. This project culminated in 2012 with her biggest piece yet, a tornado of tomes shooting out of a window at the Casa de America building in Madrid, which contained more than 5,000 individual books that were sprawled out and arranged on top of one another. The curved structure gives life to the otherwise inanimate objects, and though it was built around a solid core, the pages were left open to flutter in the breeze, creating further movement in the design. Surprisingly, the installation is actually hollow, with the books arranged around a wire mesh, so a lucky few were even invited inside to see it from within. This truly is a combination of different art forms, with so much knowledge contained in the whole, while at the same time looking like it's formed completely naturally, almost as if the information is willing outsiders to learn from what it has to offer. Number 7. Hollow. Katie Patterson is a British artist who's fascinated by the natural world and designs installations that use what we take for granted in nature to create thought-provoking structures. In 2016, she worked with an architect firm to install her latest piece, Hollow, in the grounds of Bristol University to celebrate the opening of the new Life Sciences building. From the outside, which is made from Douglas fir, it looks like an unusual wooden structure, but it's only when you crawl through the small opening that it truly comes into its own. The interior is covered from wood from 10,000 different species of trees, each of which has been cut into posts to represent their varying heights. There are newly emerging species and some samples of wood from ancient petrified forests, some that are commonly seen around the world and others that are incredibly rare. It's almost like an artistic record of the history of tree evolution, and also uses remnants from important historical events, such as a railroad tie from the Panama Canal Railway, where as many as 10,000 people died during its construction, and a piece from the Atlantic City Boardwalk that was destroyed by Hurricane Sandy in 2012. As a permanent exhibit, Hollow is still there today and can be visited by anyone who wants to take it in for themselves. Number 6. The Tiger and the Turtle. If you're a thrill seeker, then you've probably loved riding around on a roller coaster. But what if you had the chance to walk around one without being strapped into a car? And that's what the Tiger and Turtle offers visitors the chance to do, because this is a roller coaster with a difference. It's made completely out of staircases. Built in 2011 in Duisburg, Germany, it was designed by Ulrich Genth and Heike Mutter. The sculpture reaches a maximum height of 69 feet, and the zinc and steel used to build it was all leftover waste from local mining operations. The main intent was for it to offer a unique perspective over the surrounding landscape, and the 249 steps are even lit up at night to make it accessible at all times of day. There's one part, though, that's blocked off to guests, the loop section, which, while it's made up of a staircase like the rest, is impossible to traverse. Number 5. Sunflower seeds. Ai Weiwei is a controversial figure in China because of his artworks that draw attention to the nation's politics, but he's celebrated around the rest of the world thanks to his thought-provoking pieces. In 2010, he designed an installation for London's Tate Modern Museum, and while it may seem overly simplistic at first, the meaning behind it is typical of Weiwei's work. Called Sunflower Seeds, it filled the Tate's 10,000 square foot main turbine hall with more than 100 million porcelain sunflower seeds, and created a covering that was 4 inches deep. The seeds took 1,600 workers more than 2.5 years to produce, and were each individually hand-painted before being fired at 1,300 degrees. The entire artwork weighs in excess of 150 tons, and is designed to speak of the mass production techniques that China uses to supply demand in Western markets. When up close, you can easily make out each seed, but the further you step back, the more it begins to look like one whole structure. This, according to Ai, is just like China. It's so regimented, uniform, and precise that an individual is lost within the many millions. But if they all stood up together, they'd be able to affect change. Initially, the intent was that visitors could walk across the carpet of seeds, but it was soon realized that this created fine dust particles that caused breathing difficulties for some. Since its unveiling, the artwork has been exhibited at various galleries around the world, and now guests are able to walk around the perimeter and only interact with specific parts of it, again in any way. Just like how outside people and companies can interact with China itself. Number 4. The Infinite Crystal Universe. In 2017, a Tokyo-based art collective known as Team Lab, which is made up of what they describe as ultra-technologists, unveiled their latest creation, an otherworldly exhibit called the Infinite Crystal Universe. It's made up of 4 different installation rooms, each of which uses different means to convey a message of futurism and the ever-expanding nature and possibility of the universe. The use of mobile devices, a large number of sensors, and reactive computer renderings. No 2 visits to the exhibition are the same because it moves in conjunction with those who are experiencing it. In one room is a pond where the digital koi will follow you around, but the part that stands out to most is the one that imagines what a crystal universe would be like, with particle generators filling the walls and ceilings with a dazzling display of light. Immersive installations like this are not only going to become more common as technology improves, and by incorporating elements to trigger the other senses such as sounds and even the smells of the space that they develop with an astronaut. Team Lab seems to be at the forefront of making everyone feel a part of the whole. Number 3. The London Mastaba. In 2018, internationally renowned artist Christo revealed that his latest work in London's Hyde Park, a giant floating sculpture called Mastaba, made up of colorful 55-gallon barrels stacked in rows, the pyramid-shaped object had a 90-foot-long slanted side at a 60-degree angle. Amazingly, the entire thing weighed more than 600 tons, but was so big that it was able to sit on the surface of the water. The installation and subsequent removal of Mastaba was all completely funded by the artist himself, and was done alongside an exhibition of his other works at the nearby Serpentine Gallery. There was no rhyme or reason behind the Mastaba beyond the fact that Christo thought it would be an interesting use of the space, but that almost encouraged visitors to determine their own meaning behind it, and so it became hugely popular during the 3 months that it was there. Number 2. Waste Landscape. There's no doubt that creatives often suffer for their art, but in the case of Waste Landscape, the artist behind it had an insane amount of work to do before it was complete. It was unveiled in 2011 in the Saint-Quatre art space in Paris, and was a series of undulating metallic domes that had been made up of 65,000 recycled CDs that were hand-sewn together. It took Clémence Eliard and Elise Morin months to do this, and the sheets of metal were hung over a wire frame to give the shape its definition, almost looking like a partially submerged disco ball. The piece was a reminder of the huge amounts of wastage that's created by manufacturing products like CDs and how such large quantities go to waste. It seemed almost fitting that the site of the art gallery was once a funeral home, but in this instance, the artist ensured that their environmental footprint was minimized. Once the exhibit closed, all of the materials were recycled into polycarbonate so it could be reused for something else. Number 1. Museo Atlántico. While most art exhibits and installations are designed to allow as many people as possible to see them, there's one that's a little more difficult to access. Instead of being in a city or an art gallery, the Museo Atlántico is actually 45 feet beneath the water's surface off the coast of the island of Lanzarote in the Atlantic Ocean. It took more than 3 years to plan and consists of more than 300 life-size concrete casts that were arranged over a barren region of seabed. The reason this material was used is that over time it will begin to become living sculptures and could potentially still be recognizable even if they're covered in coral and other marine organisms for many centuries. It's a provocative work that blurs the boundaries between art and nature, and also the transient nature of human existence. Refugees are depicted on a raft trying to escape persecution and only facing even more of it in their final destination, while there's another section where 35 people are walking directly towards a wall but have no idea because they're looking down at their phones. It might well be derivative and isn't exactly easy to get to unless you have diving equipment with you, but it's definitely one of the most unusual art installations you'll find anywhere on Earth. Subscribe to Top 5s for more and check out some of our other popular videos.